In this video, I'm going to go over how to calculate college expenses and how to create a function that is going to relate the expenses to the amount of time that you will be in college in a year. So the first thing you want to do is look up the college that you would like to attend. Now on their websites for prospective students, they do have a list of all of the expenses that are required. These include tuition, room and board, additional fees, and most of the time they do have an approximation of how much you will be spending on textbooks. So for this example that I'm going to show you today, I'm going to take a look at the University of La Verne. I went ahead on their website and looked up how much it costs to attend La Verne, how much it costs to dorm there, etc. So the first expense, obviously, is tuition. Now, tuition at the University of La Verne is $19,280 per semester. Okay, so my total for this amount would be to double that amount. That gives me a total of $38,560. Now the total amount of fees, now this varies for each student depending on the fees that they will be incurring over the entire year, but it is approximately $275 a year. And these fees include parking, lab fees, things like that. So obviously per year, that remains at $275. Now we're going to take a look at room. The room for the University of La Verne is $2,335 per semester. So if we double that for the entire year, we get $4,670 a year. Okay, now boarding takes into account the meals that you will be having since you're dorming and you're part of the school's dorming system. Okay, so it is $2,710 per semester. Now these vary depending on the meal plans that you will be having. The room also varies depending on the amount of roommates that you'll be having, which buildings you will be dorming in. So these can vary. I just went ahead and picked random meal plans and dorming. Okay, and the university does estimate that on textbooks you will spend around $500 per year. Again, this depends on the classes that you will be taking, how many classes, how expensive the books are for those classes. So this is an approximation. And since it is already per year, I'm just going to go ahead and add it here. So these are the expenses that are required for being a full-time student dorming at La Verne. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and add these up because these are already per year. Okay, so we get a grand total of 49,425. Now this is quite a large number, but mind you, University of La Verne is a private university. It's one of the most expensive in the area. If you will be going to a state college, the prices won't be nearly this much. But I just wanted to choose an expensive school so you can get an idea of how high college, how expensive college can be. Okay, so these are these expenses. Now, the other expenses that we have talked about are living expenses and miscellaneous expenses. These are personal expenses, so it depends on you how much you are going to be spending on each of the items, if you will be spending any money at all. So these are going to vary, and I will calculate these per month because usually you can get kind of a good idea how much money you can spend on a certain expense per month. So that's going to be one of the relations in our function equation. Okay, so some of the other living expenses per month are food. Now, food is included in the board expense here, but this is food that you would be purchasing elsewhere. Like if you were to go buy a cup of coffee or buy some food outside of campus, some snacks, anything like that, I will go ahead and approximate that you would, well, I personally would spend around $80 a month on food. Okay. Now the other major expense is gas. Okay. I personally spend around $30 a week on gas, which would be around $120 a month. Okay. Now clothing, again, these are just approximations. It depends on you how much you would be wanting to spend on these expenses. Supplies. Now these supplies could include school supplies or toiletry supplies, anything that you could buy at a market or a drugstore. Okay, and personally, when I was going through college, I had to pay for my own cell phone. So that was around $50 a month. Now this again depends on how much your parents will be helping you out. You might not have to spend it all on your phone. When I was in college, my parents covered my insurance as a way of helping me out, so that was never an expense for me. It could possibly be an expense for you. So you would want to add that if you think that that's something you would be spending money on. So these are more living expenses that I would cover. Now the other miscellaneous expenses, these are just more luxuries, things that I would like to enjoy. So I'm going to go ahead and add in Netflix. It's something I have always had from the very beginning. And I would approximate it to be $8 a month. And I'm just going to add in another expense, which is just going out every weekend. So that would be around $80 a month. Okay, now since these are monthly expenses, it depends on how many months you is in the entire year. So we're gonna create our function now. Our function is going to have the fixed amount that we are required to pay, which is this number here. So our function, I'm going to call it C for cost. And it's going to be a function of time because it depends on how much time I'm going to be in school. So my fixed amount per year is this number here. Okay, it's the same number up here. And I'm going to go ahead and add these monthly expenses. These are not yearly expenses like these. These are monthly expenses. So I'm going to add them as monthly costs. So Okay, and that gives me a total of $498 per month. So that's where my variable is going to be. Is $480 per month, since this is a function of time. So this is the function that you create, and these are the expenses that you can put down. Okay, again, all of these calculations are going to be very different for the schools that you choose. More likely than not, it's going to be a lot cheaper, especially if you go to a state school. I just chose this school because it was the school that I attended. And your function is going to be different as a result of that. These personal expenses, again, it's going to vary depending on what you're going to be spending on and what your parents are going to be helping you with.